On the Seven Seas, War Games Rules for the Age of Piracy and Adventure circa 1500 to 1730 by Chris Pierce, part of the Osprey Blue Book War Game series. We're going big today, baby. We have got the HMS Pirate Hunter going up against a stolen Xebec. Now, the HMS Pirate Hunter had to make some balancing acts, had to kind of improvise, use what you got. These are both, well, I don't know where you get this one from. It's an old Merrimack Miniatures 15 millimeter Xebec. This is a 14-gun sloop. It's actually listed as a brigantine on the Old Glory shipyard. Yeah, not the shipyard. You have to go into the pirate section of the Blue Moon Manufacturing. It's a resin model. It's great. It's like $35, $40. Now, it comes with 10 cannons, and so I pulled 4 of them off to give to the Xebec. So we got a little 4-gun Xebec commanded by Captain Greensleeves. On the Seven Seas, you have not just 1, but 2 morale trackers per faction. You've got greed on the black die, and then in this case, Captain Greensleeves, green die, that will be fear. Over here, the HMS Pirate Hunter, led by Captain Kingsman, we're going to have greed and fear with the red, right? Red dice, red coat, green sleeves, green die. For the fear, both of their greed are going to be black dice. And I have I don't know what you call this. It's a D6. It's got a 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 4. And I'm going to roll it, and I'm going to add 2 to the value. And we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4 to find out what each of our factions start at. So their greed is going to start at 5. That's good for them. The fear will start at 3, which is good. 1, 2, 3. Remember, if your fear exceeds your greed by more than 1, then you quit the fight altogether. No, wait. I think I got that backwards. We're starting fairly low here. 1 plus 2 is going to be 3, but we're kind of right on top of each other. That's going to go away fairly quickly as we start the game and try to jockey for position with these ships. As I said, we've got a little 4-gun, and this is classed as a. Let me check my notes here. So you've got the Xebec has got 4 light cannons. It can turn up to 30 degrees. It can sail up to 45 degrees into the wind, and it tacks in 1 turn. We'll talk about what that means when we start playing. The brigantine here can hold, now, and this guy can hold up to 20 figures. This can hold up to 60, and it can have up to 12 light or heavy cannons. As you can see, we've only got enough guys. There's only 12 guys on here. It's 2, what do you call them, mates and 10 sailors. Over here, we've got, I think it's 2 mates and 12 sailors. So a lot more cannons on the big gun, not quite as many guns on the small ship. That's one of the balancing factors we've got. The brigantine can only turn up to 15 degrees per turn. However, it can only sail up to 30 degrees into the wind, and it requires 2 turns to tack. So able to turn 30 degrees, able to turn 15 degrees. Can sail up to 45 degrees into the wind, 30 degrees into the wind. Tacks in 1 turn, tacks in 2 turns. So we'll talk about what that means in a minute. The other thing we have to figure out is where these ships start and what's going on. And for that, we're just going to roll some dice. Now, I should tell you that a lot of these little specialist small kind titles that you've got for Osprey, they are a generic skirmish rule set that is wrapped up in a very interesting period-specific rule set. Deployment is pretty easy. The British Royal Navy has a greed of 5 to start the game. Whoever has the higher greed goes first, but we need to figure out the terrain. And in the context of an open sea battle like this, the only real terrain we've got is the wind direction. I'm going to roll a d12, and that'll tell us which clock face it's going. So 1 o'clock, wind is going to be in that direction. That being the case, our brigantine is going to want to deploy. Now, in the official rules as written, they say, hey, you're going to want to deploy along the long table edges, but again, remember, at less than 2 feet. It's not going to work out so hot for us. And it's just going to be a simple capture the enemy. So what we're going to do to make this work is we're going to start our boys off like this. Apparently, the Royal Navy has finally got to Captain Greensleeves, and they're in chase, and the action will pick up when they are just a mere, how far apart are they? From cannon to ship, that's 12, I guess I should probably put my finger down so I get it. So they're probably about 22 inches apart. What does that mean in terms of the game? Well, that's a good question. I'm going to reset. Now that I see where these ships are located, let me reset our camera. The side with the highest greed goes first. That's going to be this side over here. To start each turn, the captain can raise or lower the fear or greed of any faction within 12 inches of himself. Obviously, the pirates are too far away at this point. He is going to reduce his own team's greed, raise it to 6. When your fear gets to be 2 more than your greed, you can no longer move toward the enemy. If it's 4 more than the greed, then you cannot shoot at the enemy, and you must fall back if you are in contact. When your fear reaches 10, that is game over. I should point out that these guys, this captain can reduce his team's, when he reduces fear, he rolls 2d10, and for every 7 up he gets, his fear goes down by an additional 1. Captain Greensleeves is very intimidating. When he tries to cause fear on someone else, he automatically causes 1 fear, and then he rolls 2d10 with the odds of increasing that fear, 2 more times, as we said. In this case, Captain Greensleeves is going to do likewise. He's going to reduce his faction's fear down to 2, so he's got a little bit of a cushion. Then we get to the shooting phase, and shooting is with a light cannon. Nobody is within any fire arc. So that could be the name of the game here, is trying to get to within a fire arc of your enemy without your enemy doing likewise. This ship is more maneuverable. If they can cut across the bow, they may be able to fire a couple of raking shots down the length of this vessel, and that's pretty much, I think, their only hope at winning, because the Royal Navy is going to be firing 3 shots to every 2 for the pirates. No shooting right now. Nobody has any fire arcs, and the next thing is going to be ship movement. So you conduct first moves from the upwind to the downwind, and remember the wind is they're both facing 1 o'clock basically. They should be. Make it a little more explicit. The way moving works is that you can turn up to your maximum turn radius and then move up to 6 inches under wind power, make another turn up to your maximum, and then the other guy does that. So what happened here is these guys made a 30-degree turn, moved 6 inches forward, made a 30-degree turn, and that's where they stopped. Then the Royal Navy moved 6 inches. They made a 15-degree turn this way, clockwise, moved 6 inches, made another 15-degree turn, and then they moved 3 inches forward. They made their second turn. Then there's a second move involved where you can move up to 3 inches dead ahead. The pirates have opted to do just that. The Royal Navy has opted to do just that as well. So we're done with the ship movement. Now that we are done with the ship movement, we can, let's see, ships take under oars. There are rules for oars. These guys, if they want to task 4 guys to oars, they can move 2 inches per turn. Notice that movement comes after shooting, so we aren't going to be able to fire cannons just yet. Now our figures can move, and the only real movement we have right here is, given that our guns on this side of the Royal Navy vessel are not able to fire, we can have these guys spend a full turn climbing up into the crow nest. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put 2 guys up into the rigging, and they're going to be ready to do some marksmanship. Now, the figures that are on deck, in fact, I'm going to go ahead and bring some musketmen up here as well. We'll go ahead and leave these cannons on the starboard side alone, and we'll bring some shooters up here. And likewise, this guy right here is one of our first mates. We'll bring him over as well. So we're going to have some cannon shots and some shooters over there on the next turn if we need to. Then we have melee, but of course we don't. So that's the end of the turn. Now that I've done it the first time myself, I can show you one thing I've done to make it a little easier is this is for fighting sail. It's a turn gauge. I've got my wind rose right here, which is showing wind at 1 o'clock. And that's going to help me figure out whether my guys are into the wind or out of the wind. As long as they're sailing 90 degrees, it's not going to be an issue. This guy is a little smaller, so he can actually come 30 degrees into the wind. I think it might even be 45 degrees. Anyway, we're on to the second turn, and on this second turn, we are only going to be, well, our ships are 12 inches apart. So our captains are not going to be able to influence the rival ship. So once again, we will reduce the fear down to 2. Well, our Greensleeves can go down to 2 automatically. For the Royal Navy, we can grab a couple of dice and say, you know what? We can go down to 2, but on every 7, I can reduce it by an additional 1. And with a 4 and a 5, Captain Kingsman is not able to do that. Then we move on to shooting. And as you can see, our Royal Navy ship does not have any shots. They don't have any bowsprits. I think that's what it's called. Oh, no, I think is this the bowsprit? They don't have any bow guns. So we have 2 guns that can fire up to 30 degrees. And if I put my little tracker right on top of it, I think, so this is a 30-degree angle right here. So if I line it up with the gun, we've got 2 shots at the enemy vessel. Light cannons, and we're going to be calling it further than 12 inches. So if I check my quick reference sheet, available at johnmollison.com, I'll try to remember to throw a link in the description, or you can just search for On the Seven Seas quick reference sheet. Mine is the only one you'll find on this or any other internet. Shooting, roll a d10 per figure. Well, okay, like we said, the guys with the muskets are only going to be able to shoot 12 inches for sharpshooters, 8 inches otherwise. Our cannons can fire up to 24 inches. Hey, it takes a full turn to reload. Roll to hit all figures in line of fire. It's a little different when you're firing at a vessel. When you're firing at a vessel, beyond 8 inches, you need to roll a 9 up to hit. It doesn't matter which of these guns is going to be firing. We're going to fire them both. And we get an 8 and a 10, so we get 1 hit. Now, instead of drawing a line and seeing what all figures are involved there, good old Chris Pierce provides us with a damage chart right here in the book. And what you do is, the higher the result on a D10, the more damage you do. I know you can't see that. You're going to have to take my word for it. Light cannons, subtract 2 from the roll. So that 1 hit that actually hit, we get a 9. Minus 2 is a 7. Gun dismounted. If there are any swivel guns or cannon on the side of the target, the nearest such weapon to the fire is struck by a ball and put out of action for the rest of the game. If the firer is directly in front of the bows, the nearest bow gun, oh, that's what they're called, bow guns. If he's beside the stern, he can destroy the nearest gun on the side of his choice. If he has no guns, treats light damage. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this nearest cannon right here, kablam, and now, should they be able to, and we're just going to take it right out of there. I should probably flip it over because it makes things more complicated, but what are you going to do? And that's how shooting works on a ship-to-ship basis. If you do have, and again, remember, they're only 8 inches away. I think we're going to measure 8 inches along the ground for our sharpshooters instead of 8 inches, because, man, 8 inches, you'd have to be, like, right on top. He's already 6 inches off the ground. He'd only be 2 inches away. I think you get what I mean. So now both of these cannons have fired, and they're going to have to reload next turn, but we haven't done moving yet. And as I said, what we're going to do is the guys that are furthest upwind, that's our pirates, they can move a total of 6 inches. But I got to show you how the turning works too. So where did I put my turn gauge? Here we go. So I always turn it on the center mast, or the main mast, I guess you could call it. We can turn up to 30 degrees and move 6 inches. So for here, we'll just measure front to front. And then they can turn an additional, up to 6 inches. Let's stop them right about there. And we're going to turn an additional 30 degrees. Just like that. We're going to go for a boarding action. What do you say to that? For their part, the Royal Navy is going to move up. They're not going to turn at all. They're just going to go ahead and go the full 6 inches. I don't know. Maybe they do want to turn. I think they do, to be honest with you. Here at this end of their move, they're going to turn up to 15 degrees. So I use this angle here, and I only go half. And with a 30-degree fire arc, do they? Oh, we're done. Now for second moves, our pirates can move ahead 3 inches. Do they want to? They don't want to. Not obligatory. Our pirates absolutely do. They're happy because now they're going to be in a position where on the next turn they should be able to get at least one and possibly two cannon shots off at our little Zebek. The range here is going to be 8 inches, so we will have some people firing that we got to do next turn as well. But that should be it for the turn. Let's just double check our sheet. We do figure movement. Does anybody else want to move? I don't think anybody does. And then we do melee, but of course nobody's in melee. So that is the end of the turn. The highest greed is the Royal Navy. Our captain says, I'm going to reduce my fear down to 1 to a minimum of 0, but I get 2 chances to go to 0. And with that 0, he does. So the greed is now down to 0. I'm just going to remove that for now. Because, of course, Captain Greensleeves is within 12 inches of the enemy. He says, raise your fear up to 1, and I want to maybe raise it more than that. But with a 1 and a 3, he does not. Then we have the shooting, and we've got a bunch of it. Our ships are, we'll have to check per figure, we've got, well now, let's be aware, the 2 guns are reloading for our pirates, which leaves 1, 2, 3, well, wait a minute, what are those guys holding? We're going to have the guys, we've only got 1, 2 guys with muskets that can take shots. On the side of the English, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 guys that can take shots. Plus the 2 cannons. And if we check our firing arc of 30 degrees, we are just barely within the fire arc of both of these guns. So both of them are going to fire. We'll start with the cannons to see what happens. And at a range, I think those are both going to be hits. Our range is only 8 inches, which is, yes, hitting on a 9 up. So we get 2 hits on the pirate ship. And with an 8 and a 2, now remember those are light cannons. So with an 8 and a 2, the 2 will become 0. Light damage, the point of impact is the nearest point of the target vessel in front. Each figure within 2 inches must throw a d10. On a 9 or a 10, he is out of action. So I guess we do need to worry about which cannon is which. The nearest point is going to be, well, let's just call the nearest point, I don't know, right about there. I think for both of them. I think it's probably fair. So it doesn't really matter. And then on the 8, we've got a 6, which is sweeping the deck. The shot punches a hole in the planking above the waterline. Ignore the damage to the vessel, but all figures in the danger zone must dice exactly as they would a cannonball on land. All right, so let's do the first one first. We are going to have an opportunity to hit every figure within 2 inches of this guy right here. So we've got within 2 inches. Man, that's a lot of figures. We're going to have to dice for a total of 2, 4, 6 figures. And I'm just going to start at the top and go around the horn. 1, 2, they're out of action. 3, 4 are not. 5 and 6. So the no damage puts out 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5 out of action. So that's 3 out of action for the pirates. Then on the result of a 6 sweeping the deck, plows across the deck at chest height. So if that's this cannon right here, we're going to have another 2 guys that are treated as though they got shot by a cannon on land. Well, now what does that mean? If we flip to the shooting for cannons on land, what that means is, now normally you get a saving throw. You roll to hit, and then you roll to save, only for guys that are within cover. This guy is going to also be removed. Now that cannonball would have gone straight across the deck, and everybody in that line of cover would have taken damage. You don't get a saving throw when you're shot by a cannon unless you're behind a stone fortification. However, of the guys that were just blasted by the British gunnery skills, 2 of them had muskets, so we are going to have 3 shots returning fire at just under 8 inches, and we're going to start over here and see what happens. So 3 shots at 8 inches is going to be hitting on a 10 up. So we got 3 guys. We got 1 hit all together, and so that's the pirates shooting at these guys. But these guys, now because they're not firing with a cannon, they do get their saving throw of a 7 or better. And on a 1, he fails, so we'll just take this first guy off. So the British have now lost their first guy. The British have a total of, and again, so this guy is, they should have been firing at the guys in the rigging. We got 2 guys in the rigging that are firing down at the ship. Now, because they're in the rigging, the pirates do not get the benefit of cover. But because they are firing, they need to roll 0s, so no hits for that. And then we have 3 guys up here in the stern, and they are going to be firing at this last guy. There's one little pirate with a musket who's just asking for it. So we got 3 shots, hitting on a 10, saving on a 7 up, and all 3 of those miss. So that's going to be the end, and with 4 pirates down, I think that's a pretty good shooting phase for the British. Then we move on to the moving, and the pirates are going to turn the 30 degrees. They're going to move the 6 inches, and let me check my compass rose. Can they turn that? Are they too much into the wind? As long as they are within, let's see, no, it's actually more like 60 degrees. Wow, sloops can sail 60 degrees into the wind. I think they're okay. We might, they won't be able to make that second turn, though. If they do make that second turn, in fact, what they're going to have to do is, as they're passing, they're going to have to now tack through the what would you call it? So the in irons, right? They're going to have to tack through the wind and catch it up and maybe sail up on this side. For their part, the British, remember the pirates are reloading their cannons. Now the British have to reload. So they're going to go ahead and scooch up out of the way. They're going to move hold on. Remember that it is turn up to 15 degrees, and then it is move 6 inches, and then they are going to go ahead and turn that second up to 15 degrees, something like that. Now their cannons, oh boy, now their cannons are reloading on this next turn. Ship movement, figure movement, melee, and I think we're done. We can move these figures over here, I guess. Let's put them on the right side of the ship, so that they are ready for boarding action. But I think I think my sailing skills are not great because they're going to have to take a full turn to swing around. Then the British, do the pirates want to move 3 inches ahead? They do not. They're going to stay there. The British do because they're hoping to. Let's see, 8, 9, 10, 11. They're hoping to get out of range of these guns. I think this gun still has a shot up here at the stern on the next turn. We move on to the next turn, and the captain says, I'm going to go up to 5, and I'm going to go up to 7, so our morale is doing really well. That should have been done before the moving. Oh, no, I'm sorry, ship movement. All right, so we did figure movement. We didn't have any melee. Then we did morale. Now we do shooting, and this is the only cannon that has a clear line of sight to the other vessel. So we'll roll for that cannon, and let's see how close we are this time around. We are about 5.5 inches away. With a light cannon, they're going to be hitting on 7 up in this case. This cannon gets a 2, and it misses. Of course, the Royal Navy is trying to reload their cannons, so they're done. Then we've got... is this guy in the foremast? He is out of range. The guy in the aft mast, don't worry about the sails. The sails are just for show. We have a guy up here in the aft mast. He's going to be shooting down. And then we have a total of 3 shots right here. And those are all going to be hitting on 10. So I got to do 4 shots hitting on 10s. 1, 2, 3, 4. Nothing doing. And then we'll do the... Then we'll do the pistol fire for these guys. Remember, pistols can only fire 3 inches. So the only guy that really has a shot is this rifleman or musketeer. and a second musketeer here in the back. And we're just going to keep it simple. They're shooting at the guys up here on the stern castle, and they get no hits. So that's it for shooting. Now we're back on to ship movement. This time, our Royal Navy ship is further upwind. They get to go first. They're going to go ahead and turn the 15 degrees and move the 6 inches to there. And then they're going to turn another 15 degrees like so. Our Zebek is going to do something complicated. If you are sailing into the wind, and I've already said, so here's what our compass rose looks like. And let's take a closer look at this because this is important. As long as you're within 60 degrees of the wind, sloops can sail in this quarter. Now, they are in this direction. They want to tack around like this so that they can come up along the other side of that Royal Navy ship. That is very long. Now, this is kind of a complicated process. The sloop can do this. You must spend one main move sailing as close to the wind as it is allowed. It remains stationary during its secondary move, while the bows move on to the opposite tack. So we do get the benefit, and we're going to take it. We're going to move up. We're going to turn so we're basically I think that's probably about as close as we can get. And then we'll move up the full 6 inches. Then we have the secondary move. This guy is going to move 3 inches up. Now, I don't have 3 inches. I'm already up against the back wall of my game room. So instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this guy 3 inches this way. And that does the same thing. It creates the 3 inches of space. Now, our pirate is going to pivot around the midpoint of the stern, which remains stationary. Before commencing the second turn, okay, so it says here that a ship takes 2 turns. I think these guys, that's the benefit of a sloop. I think they automatically swing around, and that's where they wind up. So they're very maneuverable, aren't they? And we are at a distance of greater than 12 inches, so cannons can fire. This cannon has not fired, but we're on the ship movement for now. And then, let's see, so he did his first movement, and then he moved 3 inches, and then they decided to wear, so they are now in a position to, and I think about it, there might be something that you don't get a second move if you are sailing into the wind. That feels right to me somehow. Make a secondary wind. As before, it must always be in a straight line. Yeah, its purpose is to allow some flexibility in maneuvering in order to approach or board an opponent or attempt to avoid. Yeah, I guess you get it whatever direction you're facing. So we're not going to have any figure movement or melee, so that's going to be the end of the turn, and we're going to go on to the higher greed. Goes up by 1. Goes up by 1. Fighting, these guys are sailors. I guess they're just a lot more comfortable fighting on ships. Then we have some shooting to do, but of course we do have, so this gun, I can't remember which one. They're only going to have 1 shot. I think this gun fired, and this gun did not. And I think we've got a shot at the stern here. It's going to be hitting on, because it's beyond 8 inches, they're only going to hit on a 9 up, but what the heck, I might as well go for it. A 3 is a miss, and that's going to be the end of shooting. So then we have our ship movement. The Royal Navy ship goes first, and here's where we're going to have to get a little bit tricky. I'm going to shift my whole table, because it's too compact this way, 90 degrees, well, not 90 degrees. I'm going to shift it through 2 clock faces. So my wind is now going to be from your left to your right. I think this reorientation kind of keeps things the way they were. We're still 12 inches apart. You'd probably bring him back a little bit. One of the joys of solo wargaming, you can get away with stuff like that. It turns out my opponent is okay with it. We still have to do our ship movement, though. The Royal Navy is still in the lead, and they want to make their 15-degree turn and then move up just a little bit, and then they can make another 15-degree turn, something like that, and that does put them, we'll see. These guys don't want any of the cannon work, so they're going to turn 30 degrees, like, well, yeah, they'll turn the 30. They will move 6 inches dead ahead, like so, and then they'll move another 30 degrees, like so. Then we have our secondary moves, and these guys can move up a couple of inches, and our pirates are going to move up another 3 inches to there, and we're still 12 inches away. So until they can swing around, there's not going to be a whole lot of action. But they do have another shot, and that's where the sloop really does well against these guys. The cannon here in the front now has a shot, and I think that's the only one that does. It's beyond 12 inches, so they can fire and hit on a 7. Of course, they roll a 1, so it's no good. This turn, he's reloading. All of the British cannons have reloaded, and we're going to be done with the turn. So our greed goes up to 10, our greed goes up to 9, and all right, I'm going to stop worrying about the morale clocks for now. They're all maxed out at 1 and 10. We're just going to leave it as is. I'm getting confused because usually it's move, then shoot, move, then shoot. In this case, it's shoot, then move. So why don't we go ahead and... I really think based on how this is set up, I'm going to have to rearrange the geometry again. All right, I've turned us another 90 degrees clockwise. Our wind is now directly towards the camera, and that means the guy furthest upwind is going to be him. So the wind is blowing this way. The guy furthest upwind is still our Royal Navy. Okay, that makes sense. That does make sense. I'm happy with that. Maybe our Royal Navy wants to tack the other way this time. Let's do that, because we want to bring 3 cannons to bear. We've got time. We're going to bring the 15 degrees. It's going to take us a couple of turns to get there, isn't it? And then moving 6 inches, and then turning another 15 degrees. That's their first move. Then our pirate ship is going to turn 30 degrees, move 6 inches, and turn another 30 degrees. So he's coming up on this side now. And then both ships want to move 3 inches. Those are going to negate. It'll be 3 inches forward, 3 inches forward, and there's not going to be firing. And you know, the funny thing about this is the pirates now have the Royal Navy on the run, don't they? But I don't think that's going to be the case for long. Once again, we don't have any shooting or ship movement because everybody is out of the way, but we do have some figure movement as all of the Royal Navy guys rush over to the, the starboard side of the vessel to take advantage of these 3 cannons that are unloaded, or that are loaded and ready to fire. You know, I forgot something very important. That one turn of cannon fire we had, on the next turn... Check it out. We're going to do this turn. This is why my morale was not an issue. For every figure killed in the last turn, you roll an 8 or better, and fear increases by 1. Ah, well, we had 4 on the part of the pirates, and that would be 1. Their fear only would have gone up by 1. So it didn't make any real difference, I guess. But that is something important to remember, that when your guys start getting shot at, they tend to get a little nervous. The Royal Navy gets to go first again, and once again, they're going to do the same thing. They're going to turn up to 15 degrees. They're going to move 6 inches, and they're going to turn another 15 degrees. The pirates now are going to go ahead and sail dead ahead 6 inches. Second moves, it's going to be 3 inches here and 3 inches dead ahead here. So 1, 2, 3, and then these guys are going to come up 3 inches, so from the mast to there. and that's where things are going to stand. Now, they are sailing right into the teeth of the storm. They're at beyond 8 inches, so we're going to have 3... Oh, okay, so that's ship movement, then it's figure movement, then it's melee. Now we move on to the next turn. Morale, we're still at maximum numbers. We got to do shooting. We're going to have 3 light cannon shot at the Zebek. And with a 1, 5, and a 4, I don't get any hits. You're only hitting on 9s. Those 3 cannons are now unloaded, and the pirates have an opportunity to do ship movement. Now, who's further upwind? We go by main mast, I should say, which means this guy, the pirate, is going to be able to move 6 inches dead ahead, and then our Royal Navy vessel is going to move 6 inches dead ahead, and then we have secondary moves, and it's going to be 3 inches, not quite going to get him, and the Royal Navy is going to move 3 inches like so. Time for some shooting. We'll start with the pirates. They have 1 cannon. Well, what about this aft cannon? It's kind of wobbling around a little bit. Yeah, they both have shots, and they are at very close range. So last turn, they just took a really big chance. They sailed directly into the Royal gun. The back cannon is 5 inches away. The forward is 3 inches. And so in both cases, it's going to be hitting on 7s. They get 1 hit. Now, which one is it? The 1 through 5, it'll be the forward gun. All right, so with a 4, it's that forward gun hits right there. And for damage, they're going to get a 5. And if we check our damage chart, a result of a 5 is going to be... Oh no, the grog! The target's rum store has been hit. No other damage, but all factions on board add 1 to their fear rating. The pirates now have a fear of 2 and a greed of 12. So they still are looking to upgrade their ship, I guess. And then let's see, and I guess we should start tracking this now because it's going to get kind of hairy. And it's going to be 1 and 12 for the Royal Navy. That's it for the cannon fire. The Royal Navy gunners are reloading, so we've got 3 shots up top, and then we've got 2 in the rigging. Now let's do the 2 in the rigging first because these guys don't get a save from those. And they are only hitting on a 10, so nothing doing there. And then we've got 3 down here in the stern. Hitting on a 10, we get 1 hit altogether, and on a 7-up, there's no save. So one of these guys, I'm just going to roll D10 and count forward. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So one of the guy in the red coat, he's one of their first mates. So that might be a problem later on. So that's it for shooting. Then we do first movement. The guy furthest upwind is going to be this guy. And he's going to go ahead and turn the 15 degrees so that he's directly running with the wind. Our pirate that can then move 6 inches, and he goes 6 directly into the side of the vessel. Now, he's not ramming, of course. We're going to have some fun boarding action. We're going to have to move him back 3 inches because it's at the end of your secondary move. In other words, the Royal Navy does not want to grapple. They sail ahead 3 inches. These guys can't sail because there's a boat in the way. And then, because the Royal Navy says, no, I'd rather get into a shooting match with you, I outgun you 3-2, the pirates need to score a 6 or better in order to grapple. And with a 1, they fail, which means we are done with the turn. The pirate captain Greensleeves says, who's got the higher greed? They both have 12. He says, you guys should be very afraid. And he raises his enemy's fear by 1 to 2. Meanwhile, the captain says, no, we're not afraid. I'm going to lower it by 2 down to, like I said, 1 is the minimum, just house rule. I don't know if that's the rule or not. But because the captain, the Royal Navy, is in the lead, they're further upwind, they are going to be able to move 6 inches forward. And what do? Do we turn a little bit, the 15 degrees? because they're going to start raking us. That could get ugly. We should turn this way, I guess. And then, yeah, likewise, the pirate says, hey, that's fine, man. I'm going to go ahead and sail 6 inches up here. And I'm within, if he's within 2, and then we go, and then I'm going to turn up to 30 degrees. They're both going to move 3 inches. So because he is still within, in fact, he may decide to turn and come up like this. He gets another chance to grapple on a 6 or better. And he's going to be able to do it after this ship movement. So they are grappled now. Bring. So here we are grappled. That's at the end of ship movement. And now we go on to figure movement. Or I should say, now we go on to maybe next week. Because I think this, we handled the ship-to-ship value of phase of this game. And, if you had multiple ships, you'd have a lot more options for what you're doing. But I think this game does give you a very good flavor for the challenges inherent in naval combat, in positioning yourself with respect to the wind, and how to take advantage of your superior gunnery when you're up against a ship with superior maneuverability. Kind of an interesting exercise. I don't think I'm going to add this to my regular rotation, but I'm glad to have a couple of big pirate ships in my collection. They're just so much fun. People love the way they look. And in our next video, we're going to go ahead and do the actual boarding action. So look for that in a few days. Until then, I'm praying for you.